Okay, let's jump right in here. For our keynote today, we have Mayor Michelle Kaufusi from Provo City, who's also the Utah Lake Authority Board Chair, doing our keynote address. I'm going to read off a quick paragraph. We'll turn the time over to her. She'll have a couple of minutes at the end to do a few questions before she needs to leave. And afterwards, I'll continue with the rest of our agenda. Michelle Kaufusi is a Provo girl, born and raised, graduated from Brigham Young University, always actively involved in community service, and eventually making history as Provo's first female mayor in 2017. Honored as Utah's 2019 Informed Decision Maker of the Year and the 2022 Utah Valley Chamber Champion, Mayor Kaufusi continues her regional leadership with appointed positions as Chair of Utah Municipal Power Agency, Chair of Utah Lake Authority, Vice Chair of Utah Water Quality Board, and a longstanding board member of the Utah Olympic Committee. She also served as chair of the Utah County Metropolitan Planning Organization and MPO Finance Committee and was former president of the Utah League of Cities and Towns. Mayor Kaufusi's leadership has also translated to national accolades for Provo City, most notably being honored by the distinguished Milken Institute as the nation's best performing city for an unprecedented 3 consecutive years from 2021 to 2023. Please welcome Mayor Kaufusi.
All righty, this is a good-looking bunch. I recognize a lot of faces, so welcome, everyone. It's good to be among fellow Utah Lake enthusiasts, and it's good to be among friends. I'm tall, so this is kind of like lower than I'm used to. It began quietly, not with a speech or a grand announcement, but with worry. It was April of 1961, and John Kennedy had been president for barely 3 months. He was 43 years old, still finding his footing in office, when the news came across his desk. The Soviets had done it. They had launched a man into space, Yuri Gagarin, and he'd orbited the Earth. Kennedy read the reports in disbelief. He'd been briefed on America's own space efforts, and he knew we weren't even close. Our rockets were failing, our test launches exploded on the pad, or fizzled in the sky. The United States, proud and confident, was suddenly second place in the race for the future. He was shaken. In private meetings, he pressed his advisors. Why weren't we further along? How could we catch up? Could we even win? A few days later, at the height of his frustration, came another blow. The Bay of Pigs fiasco in Cuba. 2 national humiliations in the same month. It was a dark season in the West Wing. But Kennedy didn't retreat. He got curious. He started asking deeper questions. He called in his science advisor, Jerome Wiesner. He met with NASA Administrator James Webb. He invited Vice President Lyndon Johnson, who chaired the National Space Council, to explore possibilities. He wanted to know how we could turn the tide in the space race. The reports were candid. America could not beat the Soviets in orbit. They had too much of a head start. But there was one frontier beyond them, the moon. No one, not even the Soviets, had the technology or the plan to get there. Kennedy studied the memos, he paced the Oval Office, he scribbled in the margins, he wanted to be sure this wasn't just a stunt. He asked NASA for the numbers, the cost, the manpower, the years it would take. Webb estimated it might cost as much as $20 billion, an astronomical figure for its day. Still, Kennedy kept returning to one idea, that a great nation needs a great challenge, something difficult enough to demand the best of everyone, engineers, scientists, welders, teachers, families. So one afternoon, as legend has it, He looked out the window toward the Washington Monument and said quietly to an aide, "If we're going to go, we might as well go all the way." Over the next few weeks, the idea hardened into resolve. Kennedy was learning step by step that leadership just wasn't about policy, it was about direction. If he could set a goal clear enough and high enough, the nation itself would rise to meet it. By late May, the decision was made. On May 25, 1961, Kennedy stood at the podium, his hair neatly combed, his voice steady, his heart pounding, and said, "I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal, before this decade is out, of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth." No one knew quite how it could be done, but in that moment, the impossible became a promise. And what followed? The Saturn rockets, the engineers with their drafting tables, the mathematicians in their labs, the astronauts training through exhaustion, all of it began with that single decision. Kennedy didn't live to see the moment fulfilled, but his words did exactly what he'd hoped. They lifted the eyes of a nation. They gave purpose to thousands of hands and hearts, and in doing so, they showed what can happen when we choose to aim not for what is easy, but for what is great. Isn't that a powerful story? I love that story. And now you're thinking, how in the world is she going to tie it into the lake? Well, my one hesitation in sharing this account was that you might think I compare myself to John F. Kennedy, and I do not. Like all of us, I can only take inspiration from his leadership style and leadership skills. But on a much, much smaller scale, I have seen some of the power Kennedy has tapping into and in setting and pursuing ambitious goals. Perhaps you have seen these too. Wouldn't it be incredible to generate that kind of energy and magic in aiding Utah Lake? Early in each of my 2 terms as mayor, I have set big, ambitious goals, some of which seem almost unreachable. Examples include transforming a tiny warehouse of a terminal into a beautiful airport, hosting airlines that can now take you from Provo to Paris, delivering a state-of-the-art sewer treatment plant that is helping to clean Utah Lake, and securing Provo's future water needs through an innovative storage program that earned a $50 million grant from FEMA. An ambitious goal helps in so many ways. It sets a focus for an organization. It tells departments what to focus on. It brings energy and draws partners who want to be part of the magic. I want to give a special shout out to our county commissioners who have been a huge part of the magic on so many of these big project ideas I've had. And it brings unity as departments and organizations work together towards a common goal. So today, my wish and desire is to set in motion the same type of thing for the good of the lake and for the good of all of us. And by the way, I tell my team, and a bunch are in the rooms today, that we swing for the fences. And if we fail, at least the residents will know we tried. In that spirit, here's my swinging for the fences idea for all of us in this room and for all our partners across the state. Let's come together and do something exceptional. Let's eliminate carp from Utah Lake by the 2034 Olympics. Yes, you heard me. I'm asking you to join me in making Utah Lake carp-free by the night of the opening ceremonies. This is bold and ambitious, but it is worth every effort. To me, the presence of carp in Utah Lake is the single greatest threat to positive resident perception and experience at the lake. Carp also represent one of the greatest threats to the lake's ecology. Carp churn up the lake bottom like rototillers, gobbling the native vegetation, clouding the water, and holding native plants and fish back. Decades of work have removed nearly 30 million pounds of carp from Utah Lake, And the box traps and our great carp hunt have made a significant dent this year. But if we want a fully healthy and inviting lake, we must accelerate our efforts and not level them out. If we ever want to see a Utah lake that is restored to its original glory, a lake that can become the haven and wonderful land it is destined to be, we must restore it to its carp-free condition. With the carp problem behind us, all other problems will be much more manageable. With the carp problem behind us, this lake and this valley will be free from something that has held us back for a century. So again, as chair of the Utah Lake Authority Board, I call on all who are within the reach of my influence to join us as we work to eliminate carp from Utah Lake in time for our 2034 Olympics. To quote the inspiring President Kennedy, we choose to do this not because it's easy, but because it's hard, because that goal will serve to organize and measure the best of our energies and skills, because that challenge is one that we are willing to accept, one we are unwilling to postpone, and one we intend to win. So why now? Well, here's why I think we should act on this now. Energy and momentum across our county. There is energy and momentum everywhere. Our airport is thriving and growing. Sundance is expanding. We're adding 2 new medical schools here in a single decade. Businesses in the economy are thriving. As the fastest growing county in the fastest growing state, we are projected to double in population within a couple of decades. This is an exceptional time, and we should use that energy and momentum to accomplish all we can for the residents of this valley and for this state. Now, there are 2 ways to look at eliminating carp. We could, quote, effectively eliminate carp, which would mean driving carp biomass below the damage threshold and keeping it there. So native plants rebound, water clarity improves, and the lake's food and wet food web rebalances for good. To do that would be great. But I want a goal that energizes us all. And for me, that means not just bringing carp down to a manageable level. It means getting rid of every last one so that we're done with them forever. That single mission would truly reset the trajectory of our beautiful Utah Lake. A carp-free Utah Lake would be a lake that can claim its rightful place in our hearts and in our lives. Imagine an entire valley that sees the lake as its central gem it truly is, a natural treasure that people are drawn to, something to face, not to turn our back on. Of course, this would require a massive team effort. And I'm not afraid of hard work, so this doesn't scare me. We'd need every state, federal, county, and local partnership we could get. We'd need universities, nonprofits, businesses, and philanthropists. I'd even want to see elementary school students getting involved through posters and speeches or anything else they can do and think of to help us with this task. If we meet this challenge, we will not only have restored and healed our lake, we will have strengthened our community. We will be knit together like never before. Imagine watching Team USA compete in winter sports in Utah and in Provo, having just experienced the magic of being part of a special team ourselves. The sense of satisfaction and connection we would feel could only be described as Olympic. I hope you'll grab onto the energy of an ambitious goal. I hope you'll come experience the magic of a team. And I hope you'll come etch your name in history as part of a monumental effort to restore Utah Lake to its natural carp-free state in time for the magic of hosting the 2034 Olympics. Thank you. Okay, so they said, you guys are going to hit me up with questions for 5 minutes, so let's go. And I apologize for my voice. This is when the mayor needs to stop talking. When she's losing her voice, she needs to zip it. But go ahead. Any questions? I'm just looking over at my stuff. They're smiling because they hear this all the time. This swing for the fences. Let's go. We're going to try really hard. And if we fail, we fell. But at least we tried. And that's the most important component is we are going to get organized and try at least. Yes. It literally is everyone I named as far as the legislate. So whenever you do something big like this, take on these big ideas, you got to go all the way to the top. So you start with the federal level and you go to the state and you go to the local and then you reach out to philanthropists and then literally, we are going to have to tap everybody, the universities and their technologies. We are just all going to have to go to work, including all the cities that touch the lake, which is kind of what our Utah Lake Authority is. But everybody's got to be all in it. Who's caught a carp? Who's done bow hunting with carp? What my family does. We're weird. Yeah, they're the grossest fish, right? They're so disgusting. They're everywhere. My boys thought it was funny one day. We have a little blue pool from Ace Hardware in our backyard for the grandkids. And the grandkids were just in heaven and schooling. And they're in the water splashing. And I go in and the boys brought home a carp, threw it in the little tiny pool. And it was disgusting and gross. And so it's time. It's time to do something big. I went with my deputy mayor and we went and we drove around the airport on that road during the mating season of the carp. That was just crazy and out of control. They're everywhere. And so if that is something that we could just put our minds around and get the momentum and the energy and start to see that we're already doing great things. I don't want to say we're not doing because we are doing. But let's do more. With us hosting the Olympics here in Provo in 2034, what an audacious goal. 2034. It's not tomorrow. It's not next year. We've got some time. But I feel pressure. I'm on the Olympic board and I am feeling this push. Provo's got to get ready. And then my team's like, we've got a few years, Mayor. But we got to get ready. And I think giving it that deadline of when we host the Olympics here in Provo is just really fun. And it kind of gives it some energy too. But yeah, it'll take all of us, everyone working, everyone lifting, everyone doing all we can. So many hands now. You go ahead. You pick. You be the bad guy.
That gentleman over there.
The commercial, did everyone hear that question? He's wondering if we can get financial help to bring back the commercial carp harvest. Do you want to explain what the commercial carp harvest was? Yeah, and if you didn't get to see that, it was fascinating. There was like backhoes down in the river, and they were backhoeing out the carp and throwing them in dump trucks. It was fascinating to watch. But that's one of the ideas. Nothing's off the table. When we decide to tackle something big like this, what have we done in the past? What's worked? What hasn't? What is the technology we can use? What's coming in the future? These are all hands-on ideas. And then we'll have to pinpoint someone to be in charge of getting rid of every carp in the lake. And if anyone wants to sign up, let me know. Because we need someone to head it up.
In the back?
Yes, I can. And that's a lot of it is I'm not only going to have, and I shouldn't say we are not only going to have to talk to the governor, we're going to take this back to DC and talk back there and find out who's on what committee. How do we begin this? Uh, I've done some big projects, so I have a little bit of a roadmap of how you start it, and Luke as well. I've ran into him back in DC, pounding the pavement, and it is, you have to keep it alive, you have to get all eyes on it, and then you just start looking for every dang dollar you can find and turn over every rock and all the outside funding that we can possibly round up and go to work. So there's a meeting that's going to happen soon where we kind of try and do a timeline. And I kind of like to start at the back. So we'll start at 2034, December 2034, and work our way to today. And what does that look like? And how do we get from there to where we are today? And then we just go.
It is time for one more question. Anyone else?
What are you going to do with all that carp?
It's a lot of jerky, right?
And can you make fertilizer? Is there any financial thing that on the back end with the biomass that could get an incentive?
That'll definitely be one of our questions. And that one, I mean, I think they used it, correct me if I'm wrong, but for fertilizer. And then I heard it was used for dog food, that they just tried to find any possible way to generate any money out of it. And we'll do all those things again.
All right. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.